Hey guys, welcome back to the channel.
So in the previous video, we had a lot of questions about the Unimog. So we thought we'll do a dedicated video to answer all your questions about it. So let's start it. So the first question, why the Unimog?
Why the Unimog? So for anyone unfamiliar with Unimog, it's a Mercedes-Benz. They've been used in pretty much most militaries around the world, as well as emergency services, as fire trucks, as tractors. It was designed as a tractor that could be used on road. The benefit of that is that it is purely built to handle rough terrain, be off-road and be highly reliable. This one from the Australian Army has obviously been looked after really well by the military, and it has full service history, things like that. Parts are pretty much readily available around the world, and it has a huge ground clearance. It has an independent frame from the cab, so anything you put on the back moves independently and therefore is removed from having too much like shock load going through it. So it lasts longer, it's better off-road. It has no computer system, and that was one big one for me, was that if something breaks out in the middle of nowhere in another country, technically I should be able to patch it up, provided I've got enough spares, and get it out of there, as opposed to you know, a sensor dying and the whole vehicle doesn't work like on a lot of modern vehicles. So those were the main two reasons for the Unimog, as well as it being large and large enough for us to build a little home on the back, which we just couldn't do with something like a Troopy. Yes, we could build something pretty cool on the back, but far and away, in our opinion, nothing anywhere near big enough as what we could do with the Unimog, because we do want to have a child.
I think we realized as well that traveling in the Jeep in more extreme condition wouldn't be possible. We're really lucky in Australia with the weather that we've got. So I can't imagine myself in Alaska or in the desert with our current setup, and as well having like a family on the road. I think it's the right move. We're very excited. I have like more storage, hopefully a little bit more toys to allow us to do all the things outdoors that we like to do. And
just be inside. Like we, as some of you will know, you can't have a baby outside. You just can't live outside with a newborn baby. So you can live inside, and that's the main goal of this, will be that we still do a million things outdoors and mostly live outdoors, but when we need to, especially early on, we have the interior with air conditioning or heating, depending on where we are.
So speaking of air conditioning, are we going to get air conditioning?
Aircon is something that we have in the Jeep, and it works really, really well, and we almost never use it. So I prefer to have the window down, wind in our hair kind of thing. I'm not a big fan of having windows up, freezing cold inside, and then you get this massive shock when you go out into, you know, 36 degrees outside. So air conditioning's not this huge deal that everyone's made out it is to them. It's not for us. It may be for a baby. So here in the cab, we're going to insulate it first from heat and noise, and we'll see if that makes it much more comfortable. We'll also tint the windows to get some heat out of it that way. And then we'll see. What we could do is put in a couple of yacht fans, because there's plenty of room up on the dashboard.
Sirocco fans, I think, in Australia.
Yeah, Sirocco, and we'll see if those do enough. We will definitely have an air conditioning system in the Habitat, but then it's like, say, $4,000 to have it in the cab as well, which we may do, but probably not straight away. We'll just feel it out first, because we don't have a baby. So.
No, I'm not pregnant. Our next question, as well, very requested. Can the Unimog hit 100k an hour on the open road? What is the most comfortable cruising speed?
No, it cannot hit 100. It can't hit 90. It could maybe hit 90, but you'd be really ringing it out. So this vehicle is designed to go fast off-road, but not fast on-road. So top speed, I like to drive around the 83 to 85k an hour mark. Now, a lot of people are like, oh my God, that's a huge deal. For some perspective, we drive the Jeep at about 90 to 95k an hour anywhere we go, even on 110k an hour roads, because no matter how fast you drive in Western Australia especially, there will always be someone right up your ass trying to overtake you. So it doesn't really matter that much. Some people have said it's dangerous. No, it's not. These roads are huge and they're not overly busy. So don't think of it like some sort of metropolitan area. It's not the Autobahn anything like that. 85k an hour keeps up with traffic in cities. Obviously, it doesn't keep up on highways. We can spend lots of money making it go faster. You can put an overdrive in, you can put different gears in the portals. We could do some modifications to the engine and the exhaust, and we could get well over 120k an hour out of it. But at this stage, that's not even on my radar. We knew it was only going to have a max speed of 85k an hour, and that does not bother us at all. Because what I think a lot of people don't realize is we're full-timers. We're not in a rush to get anywhere.
No.
If we wring its guts out, we're burning more diesel, and it's also reducing the life on all of the components and the engine. So we don't need to be smashing it. We prefer to keep in the healthy rev range and just go a little bit slower, and we get there maybe 10 minutes later. It's not a massive deal.
What is the comfort like driving a long distance on the road? So you probably saw on the vlogs that we had a rough time. It is not a comfortable vehicle, but we knew it. And that's why we've got these upgrades coming up to make it more comfortable. And it's fine. Like, you can deal with it. Like, if you buy a Unimogs, like bone stock like ours, you can go on a weekend away. You can go even on holiday. It is feasible. It is manageable. Like, we still did it. So don't let that deter you, because it's still okay.
Yeah, so obviously it's an army truck, so they don't really care so much about comfort for the lads. But no, it's incredibly uncomfortable at the moment, but we are going to make it comfortable. So we're doing full insulation setup that'll reduce the heat and the noise considerably. We're going to change the seats, ideally to suspension seats, most likely air suspension. That means they will move independently of the vehicle, and that'll absorb a huge amount of the vibration. We're going to change the tires, because those are awful. No matter what you seem to bag those out to, they still seem to ride really rough. And as many people have pointed out in our last video, there is nowhere near enough weight on the truck at the moment. So there's a huge amount of weight that it's designed to be driving along with for these springs. I mean, each spring in the back is a double, so it's got a helper spring inside even, so it's really strong, stiff suspension. So, but we will be adding more weight, and then we will tune the suspension once we know our weight, not beforehand, because that's where people seem to come unstuck.
How many kilometers has it done, and how much was it?
It has done 162,000 kilometers. We've got all the service history from the Army to back it up. We purchased it from a private seller up in the Northern Territories in Darwin. He bought it off the Army auctions in 2017, I believe it was, when it had just been taken out of the Army service. And he only put, in the entire time he owned it, he only put 10,000 kilometers on it, so it wasn't driven that much. So yeah, meticulous service history, 164,000 kilometers. If these engines are looked after, they have been known to do 1 million kilometers. So it's something that doesn't concern me at all, and we're really stoked to get quite low Ks on it. Many of them actually in the auctions say even lower kilometers, but what's happened is the speedo has died, and it's therefore not actually recording it. Then when they replace the speedo, they don't wind it back, so they end up just making it from zero. But that's where the service history really helps.
So we got ours for 28,500, which is pretty good. Like, if you look at the current pricing, it definitely inflated the past years. You can get them for cheaper at the auctions, but then some of them are not roadworthy. Like, it's a bit of a pain, like in the auction, you can't inspect them necessarily. So having them by the private owner, I think, is definitely a great advantage.
Yeah, buying it private is much safer, even though we bought it kind of sight unseen, because at the auctions, a lot of them can say that they're drivable, but they're not at all, and they'll require a huge amount of money to get up and running. Sometimes also the Unimogs they're selling was actually kind of the parts donor vehicle for the other Unimogs, and you can't drive them before you actually bid on them. You can look at them, but you can't drive them, so it is a massive risk, and we're glad we didn't take that risk.
Will you do a Doka conversion? So for those who are not too familiar with the term Doka is like a dual cab Unimog. We were at first looking into this option, but we didn't even get a quote at the end. It is way too expensive. We don't have the budget for it. And a massive disadvantage of the Doka, for us, in our opinion, is then it reduces the space that you've got for your box, for your living space. So yes, you've got like 3 more seats at the back, but then you've got that space removed. We don't plan to have 4 children or anything like that. So there was not really any point for us.
Yeah, there are some huge benefits of it. It looks sick as well. There are some benefits. One benefit being we could have moved our front seats back a little bit, which we can't obviously because of this wall at the moment. So we don't have a ton of leg room. And yeah, there would have just been some seats that would have taken a huge amount of our living space away. So you'll probably notice the Dokas that are driving around in Australia, they're more of a camping vehicle. They're not usually a live-in vehicle. They're set up more like a canopy, like a 79 series.
Next question. What will you do if you get bugged?
Ooh, so some of the Unimogs come with what's called a PTO winch. It sticks out really far and it's actually driven by the engine. The only issue with the PTO winch is not only does it stick out really, really far, but it's not actually rated to tow the weight of the vehicle. It's usually used to tow other things. It can get you out, but if you're really stuck, we've heard of people burning the PTO winch completely out. So we're going to get a really heavily rated electric winch on the front. Haven't decided if we'll get one on the back yet. We're going to carry Maxtrax Extremes for each tyre. We're going to get a shovel and we should be okay. We've got big 10-ton jacks. Yeah, it should be something that we're not going to be driving on any salt flats or in any like mud pans or anything like that. That's where people get really stuck.
And we'll have as well, hopefully very soon, some new tires, which as well would really help. We'll be able with the rims to deflate them to like 1 psi if we want.
From our trip up north, as you probably saw if you saw the other videos, I don't trust these tires. They just don't have enough grip even when you bag them out. There's no sidewall grip or anything. So yeah, having those new beefier tires are massively going to help. I think we will actually struggle to get stuck. We're not going to do stupid stuff either because it will be our home. So we're not going to be driving it down any old track filled with mud holes just for the sake of it.
What is the fuel consumption? What is your range? So it's quite hard to know exactly what is our fuel consumption because for some reason it keeps changing. Like when we went up north, I was monitoring along the way and the lowest we had was like 14.5 per 100, but one day it went up as well to 30 liter per 100. So roughly on average, we like realized it's more around the 21 to 22 liter per 100 mark. And it seems to be like similar as like the other Unimog owners to have that. So with our current fuel tank, we've got 160 liter of fuel on board. So we've got between 700 and 750 kilometers of range. We will definitely upgrade our fuel tank, potentially have a second one or a larger one to have a longer range.
We'll at least double that range no matter what. So yeah, we should have tons of range. And it's thirsty, but not as thirsty as I was concerned about. Like you hear about some of those giant ex-military man trucks and the diesel consumption's mental. So it's actually not that bad at all.
Where's the baby going to go?
So that's turned out to be a massive headache that we thought, and this was me just assuming, we thought it'd be really easy to put 2 seats here because this is a double seat, bench seat really, but there's not a ton of room. There is some space here. So anyway, we've gone to a fabricator and basically asked him to make up some sort of seating arrangement where I can be in an air seat, Ange can be in an air ride seat, and we can have like a middle fold down seat that'll fit a child safely. There'll be, you know, the full restraint system and all that. So it's doable, but we thought it would be easier than it is. But yeah, the baby will be either right. Yeah, the baby will be right here, basically.
Then I got a lot of questions as well about, am I going to drive the Unimog? So at this stage, no. But once we've got the Unimog going and we've got the box, Chris will be teaching me so that at least for emergency purposes, I will be able to drive the Unimog. And after a few months, I'll see how I go and potentially I'll get my license as well. But
yeah, I think as long as Ange knows how to drive it in a pinch, I don't see Ange driving it at all on our trips or anything like that, which is fine with me. But yeah, I wanted to be able to drive it in case something happened to me. And then if it looks like that's the way to go, then yeah, maybe you'll get your learners.
So what is the driver license that you need to drive the Unimog?
So you have to have a medium rigid driver's license. You only have to have a light truck license for the U1300, which is the one that you normally see in Europe. It's a lot like this, but just a little bit shorter. This is the U1700, so it's a bit heavier. And I instead decided to go for my heavy rigid license, which just gave me a little bit more ability to drive an even larger truck if I wanted to or if I had to. So I just thought it'd be better if I got my my heavy.
What is your rough timeline for the build?
Rough timeline for the build at first was 6 months strict. We were like, it has to be done in 6 months. Now we've decided it doesn't really have to be done in 6 months.
Yeah.
We've changed a little bit so that we will build the habitat separately of the Unimogs. The Unimog will still be able to take us for little like weekender trips and stuff that we can film for you guys. So we've extended that to this year. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, that's the deadline. This has to be completed. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be completed by the end of this year.
Yeah, livable at least. Yeah, it's good to have a timeline so that you've got your objective in mind, but at the same time, you don't want it to be too stressful, otherwise it's just gonna constantly stress you out. So we give a bit of leeway so that at least we've got 6 months to a year to finish the build.
Yeah, and there's always this unforeseen stuff, right? Like we're already waiting on manufacturers to get back to us, and that's what's really slowing us down. I don't have enough to do on it at this stage for me to be able like that's fine, I'll just work on this in the meantime. I'm kind of now almost twiddling my thumbs waiting to get like quotes back and get manufacturers to come back to me, so that extends the timeline, but unfortunately I can't do everything myself.
And a final question, a lot of you ask actually, what are we going to do with the Unimog? I think a lot of people are thinking that we're gonna keep it like with the canvas and like army, like camo, which we're not. That was just temporary for Christmas. We just wanted to get away. As you can see behind us, the canvas is already gone. We've been doing the last 2 weeks like a few little things on the cab. So it's a work in progress. Currently, the behind the scene of the build are available on Patreon. It will come soon as well on YouTube. So we are building a box at the back. We'll do a separate video with like the design and what we've got exactly in mind for the build. So stay tuned. If you've got any question in that respect, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, it's gonna be wicked. We're at the moment, Ange and I are designing it ourselves. So yeah, we're having a lot of like back and forth about what's gonna work, what can we carry. But yeah, the awesome thing about the Unimog is we have a ton of weight to play with. At the moment, it's probably 6.2, 6.3 ton, and the GVM's 12. So we've got a ton to play with, something we didn't have with the Jeep. So really, like, the sky's the limit for us within reason. So yeah, it's quite fun and stressful at the same time, organising exactly what we're going to do, but it's going to be pretty wicked.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Thanks a lot for the support. Thank you for the new subscribers for joining us. That's super cool to see the channel growing. And we'll see you next week. Yeah, thanks, guys. If you haven't subscribed already, maybe consider to do so, because it's going to be a pretty cool build series, and there's going to be pretty awesome expeditions that we're going to do afterwards. See you on the next one.